Okay, so I've made a little shape, and I'd like you to take my little spiny turtle here, and which is called f of x, and then I want you to do this to it. F of negative x plus 2. So that does doing two things to it. Do it in the right order. You can do it by moving the points if you'd like to. That's probably the easier way. Freehanding it can sometimes be tough because you often are off by a point. Like one of the points is slightly off. But if you move each point, you have probably the best chance. I'll give you a second to work on that. Recording again. Okay, so hopefully you moved the turtle to a new spot, and it's negative on the inside meant it was a left-right flip. Everything on the inside is left-right. So then this needs to flip over to the other side, like over there. The 0, 0 doesn't flip at all when you flip left-right. The 1, 1 would flip over here, and then the 2, negative 2 would flip over. Let me make sure. Oh, there. Okay, so now my new spiny turtle that's just flipped so far would go like that. And then, that's the last thing I got to do. 2, so your spiny turtle should look approximately like that. Raise your hand if you did your turtle correctly. Okay, and if you didn't, hopefully you know what you did wrong. All right. The harder kind are where you have to shrink said turtle. So I'd like to have you either shrink or stretch him. I suppose it's slightly easier to stretch them. So I'll have you stretch Mr. Turtle this way. F of x. I'll put a 2 out there. 2f of x. And then let's say minus 1. Okay, give that one a shot. See if you know what to do to Mr. Turtle to put him in the right spot now. Okay, so here we go. This one should be twice as tall, and then move down 1. What should I do first of these two? I would do this one. I would make it twice as tall first. And if I take this and try to move it twice as tall, it doesn't move at all. This one goes twice as tall because its height, by the way, is 0. This one twice as tall is going to go up here and be literally twice as tall. It's going to go up 4 instead of up 2. So your turtle gets really spiky. Back down again. And this one goes up to twice as tall. So his head, the top of his head would also. There we go. So you see how he's not proportionally the same. He is stretched. He is twice as tall as he used to be. It's same width. And then the minus 1 means move the whole thing down. So I'm going to grab this, move it down 1. Grab that part, move it down 1. There we go. Okay. Now, a lot of people mess up right in here. Look, be honest with yourself. Is yours moved down 1 right in there? How many of you got this right? Okay, good. Now let's talk about a few more kinds that you need to know for this upcoming test. If I said I want a function that has been translated to the right and down 7 with a vertical stretch factor of 6 and a reflection over the y-axis. Since I didn't tell you which function it is, I'm going to put an F in your answer. Know what I'm saying? If I'd have said it was a quadratic, like parabola, or if I'd have said it was an absolute value, you'd use those. But if I don't tell you that, you just use F of. So your answer has an F and an X, and it has a whole bunch of other junk in it. See if you can tell me what this one would be. And if it's an equation, I have to start with y equals, or F of X equals. Tell me what this one would be. This one, I'd like you to billboard for me. So when you're done with it, hold it up, and I will quickly grade it. And then I'll basically say yes or no on whether you're right or not. Make sure it fills up your whole screen. So zoom in on it really tight when you're done with it. So I can tell you by pointing at you whether you got it right or not. Nice. Yep. I can't see the very end of your equation. Is there a number at the very end? You don't have a y equals, otherwise you're perfect. Good. Ah. Notice that, I don't know if you noticed the down 7 part. Your negative is in the wrong spot for the flipping. See if you can figure out where to put it. Yes. Your negative is in the wrong spot for the... Wait a minute. No, wait. Let me see again. Yours is okay. Your 6 is in the wrong spot. Your negative is in the right spot. Your 6 is in the wrong spot. All right. It's going to drive people at home nuts, so I'm going to pause this. All right. So it's really easy to mess up just one little thing and lose part credit. So when they do 2 to the right, most of you knew it was -2. And then down 7, I saw a few mistakes on that, but most people knew that it was -7. And then vertical stretch, I saw the 6 in lots of weird places. The vertical stretch goes on the outside of the whole thing, so it goes there. You could, I suppose, if you put the 6 in front of the F, it's probably not that bad, but it's better to have it there. 6 times the function, all right? And then the next part is the negative, and that needs to go here, and a lot of people forgot these parentheses, but you need them on this test. You have to have that set of parentheses right here, or otherwise, last time I was Mr. Generous Guy, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Yes, if you could, but don't do that because it messes me up then when I'm grading it. So just stick with the parentheses. Don't distribute the number out. If you really want to be fancy, then explain I distributed. Okay. Then next kind that I was thinking, gee, I hope I have covered this well enough, is the x cubed, the John Travolta function. Remember how that one kind of looks like that? That's y equals x cubed. I'd like to see if you can do a stretch and a flip on that. This can get to be a mind bender. Let's pick some points that you know are on it. So this is really important. Do you get that 1, 1 is on it? Remember how 1, 1's pretty much on everything? Almost every function goes through it. Square root function, quadratic function, v-shaped function, which is an absolute value. Even this one that goes like that goes through 1, 1. So 1, 1's your key to look for. All right, back to John Travolta. Would you tell me, if this goes through 1, 1, what's the other point up here that it goes through? 2, 8. Because if this is x cubed, you're taking a 2 and you cube it. So 2 cubed is 8. So that's 2, 8. All right. Something you're going to learn in pre-calc is that this is an odd function. Not just because there's a 3 there, but because it has a weird kind of symmetry. -2, -8. And again, I'm just trying to give you tastes of pre-calc ahead of time. This is called point symmetry. Did you get if I go right through the origin, and I'll touch another point over there? And if I go right through the origin here, I'll touch another point down here. See that? That's called point symmetry. It means there's symmetry, but it's not normal symmetry like you're used to, which would be like that kind of symmetry where it's exactly the same across this line. It is symmetry across the origin, across that point. So that's what makes it an odd function. All right, so there's my function. Now would you take that function and do this to it? ½ x cubed minus 5. So that 1/2 is on the outside. Yes, try to graph it. It's going to be one of the tougher type questions you'd have to graph. Use that cage setting on your iPad. So I will not give you those points. You need to know those points. So now that you know those points, if you can just remember them, yes, you could take the points and do these things to the points. That might be a smart way to do it. So if you say to yourself, well, I know this point, this point, this point, this point, and this point, those 5 points, then you can just do these things to the points. It's probably easier than trying to do it to the whole shape. Okay, so I think you generally get the thing has to be half as tall, so it's going to be shorter than it is now, and that it's got to be moved down 5. Okay, so here's the original. Here's moving it down 5, and I'm making it shorter. You know that it's going to kind of generally look something like that. But if you want to be sure you're right, I would do that points method. And let's just list the points quick. It's 2, 8, 1, 1, 0, 0, -1, -1, and -2, -8. And if I do these things to the points, what should I do that to? The y's or the x's? The y's. What should I do this to? The y's or the x's? The y's. Because these are both up-down kind of things. Okay. Then which should I do first? A or B? Which one comes first? A. So I'm going to cut them all in half, and then what? Subtract 5. So if I take this, cut it in half, divide by 2, and then subtract 5. Divide by 2, and subtract 5. Divide by 2, subtract 5. Divide by 2, subtract 5. Divide by 2, subtract 5. I'm telling you, if you want to be absolutely positive you've got the answer right, just do that. It's really not that hard. Okay, divided by 2 is 4. 4 minus 5 is -1. So my point is 2, -1. The next point is 1, and then that's 1/2 minus 5 is -4.5. So 1, -4.5 is a point. And then 0, 0 divided by 2 is 0. 0 minus 5 is -5. This one's -1/2 minus 5 is -5.5. And the last one is -4 minus 5 is -9. And if I graph all those points, here would be the -2, -9 way down here. 0, 0. No, 0, -5, sorry, is right there. It's this one. 1, -4.5 is like there. And that's -1, -5.5, sorry. This is 1, 4.5. And the last one is 2, -1 is like right there. Here we go. Okay. So on a tricky one like that, I'm telling you, use this other method of checking it if you really want to be sure you're right. Otherwise, if you're okay with losing half a point because one of your numbers is messed up, but if 2 of your numbers are messed up, the whole thing's going to be wrong. So, just giving you extra strategies on how you could do well. All right. Last thought. We haven't talked about domain and range in a long time. Let's say that touches 0, 0 right there. And if I'm going to ask you for the domain and the range, the domain is this way. It goes from -infinity to +infinity. The range goes this way to that way, which would be 0 to infinity. And it does touch 0, so I need a bracket there. Do you remember that kind of problem? All right. Then tell me, what's the domain and range for that function? And I'll tell you, it's up 2 here, and it is over 2 to the right. Yes, it's a tough one. So start by remembering, what's domain mean? Domain means this way to this way. And range, it's kind of like pointing down to start with and pointing up. Domain means left, right. Range means up, down. Some kids are going to just say, well, domain is left, right. It goes forever this way, and it goes forever that way. So it's got to be negative infinity to positive infinity. But you'd be wrong. Because there's something along the way that it never will be. No, it can be 0, 0. My function touches at 0. It moved, yes. So it will never be able to be... What are we talking about here? These are the x numbers. So it'll never be able to be that, which is what? So you should have said negative infinity up till 2. Union with 2 to infinity. It can be 2. No, it can't be 2. Sorry. Undo that. Redo that part. There we go. Did anybody have that before I said it? Nice. I'm impressed. That's pre-calc level right there. Okay, the range. The lowest it goes, negative infinity. See if you can handle this one. The range is saying which numbers will work in the y's. Pretty much everything works except something. Raise your hand if you think you got this one. It's more people. Okay. Everything works on the y. It goes down there forever and it goes up there forever except that one, which again is 2. So it's the same exact thing. Raise your hand if you had that. More people. That's good. Okay. All right, let's do a more normal domain range. Here's an equation. What's its domain and range? First you got to sketch it. Don't have to make it perfect, just a quick sketch. And then tell me the domain and range of it. I'm going to walk around and see how you're doing. Be where you're supposed to be. Domain and range of this one. Seeing a lot of people with it right. Okay. Lots of right answers. Not everybody. Do you get it's a V shape? Do you get it's been moved? And it went 3 to the right and where? Good. It's like that ish. And then what's the domain? The domain goes this way and this way. And what's that? Negative infinity to positive infinity. Good. Doesn't stop along the way. It always works. There's no asymptotes. Okay, then how about the range? That's this way to this way. What's the lowest it goes? 5. So it's negative infinity to positive infinity. And then it's 5. And does it touch 5? Bracket. To infinity. Raise your hand if you're comfy with domain and range. You feel good about that stuff. Okay, good. So, I think I've given you enough review problems now. And I encourage you to study by finishing your homework, checking it, make sure you're doing it right. If you got questions, ask me during class today. Otherwise, my second hour class, you guys don't have a chance to obviously ask me questions, but I'll give you a couple of minutes before the test starts where you can ask me a few questions. But you really should lean on looking at your key to make sure you're doing it right then. To go to your